it was me, Josh Scott. I was the last professional punt gunner on Welney Wash. There was no way that we could have earned a living punt gunning. So many fields was being bought up by various conservation societies. When the Warfel Trust first came to Welney and bought their 100 acres of washland, I was rather surprised when Peter Scott asked me to be warden. When people heard of you punt gunning and killing 10, 20, 30, sometimes ducks, I was classed as a murderer. Afterwards, I found out he'd done his homework, that I knew practically all the owners of the washes. My grandfather and father, all my forefathers worked for them. Going back 300 years, they was called fence lodges. And the fence lodges used to use like snowshoes to get over the peaty fen to catch the birds. Nice and steady now because we don't want to disturb the birds. We was better known in my grandfather's day as marsh shepherds in the summer and professional wildfowlers in the winter. The Warfel Trust Refuge at Welney is one of the refuges owned by the Warfel Trust under the directorship of Sir Peter Scott. Now, I was given a free hand by Sir Peter. You'd like to have a look? Now, what can you see? You're a bird watcher, I know that, the look of you.
Shellback, cormorant.
Cormorant, yes.
Lapwing.
Oh, good. Actually, in view there, you've got widgeon and a lapwing. Let's see if we can find something else. Peter told me you want to bring in the swans close enough for people to study the birds and to attract other wildfowl and waders close to the public. Now, I used to attract wild birds close to my punt gun by feeding. So the only way to attract the birds close to the observatory was to put food out there, just enough to attract them. Maximum number at that time would be between 600 and 700 coming onto the ooze washes. We built up a flock of just over 3,000. Just come up here and have a look now, and I'll try and show you an adult hooper swan, and the adult is a yellow bill, a large piece of yellow on its bill, and where the yellow meets the black, it comes down to a point. Well, that swan can fly to Iceland to breed, Scandinavia, or Russia. Every bird on the refuge is completely wild. It can come and go as it pleases. As a small boy, looking from the top of the bank over the marshes, I saw what my father and my uncles was doing, and I always wanted to work as a shepherd on the washes. Instead of going down the road to school, I'd nip over the bank so my mother couldn't see me and go down to the farm and clean mangel wurzels for the farmer to get sixpence. And people used to say to me, "You'll never be able to make a living because you're not learning anything." And I said, my great uncle made a living, he was never short of money, so I'm going to do the damn same. I want to be on the washers, I want to be a fenman and earn my living by myself. I learned a lot from my great uncle. Great Uncle Will was the old character who lived in Welney Wash. He was an old devil really because he liked his booze. I've known my great aunt to say to me, have you seen your uncle, she used to say. He hasn't been home since Thursday. That's where my interest started, really, on seeing him coming home with his plover, and he was the first one ever to catch plover on water. I'm just going to show you how we used to catch plover years ago. It was protected in 1947, so therefore we never caught any more. The first thing you do is bring your spring over, ready. Then you get your line where the net is connected to. We used to have a bed about 22 yards long and 4 foot wide, sods of grass on each side of the bed and round the ends. And we used to track the plover in by live decoys until they was protected. So you fix your line into a little notch in the end of the spring, and this end you only half set it. Because if you set it completely, by the time you walk the other end and pull the line, you might pull this off the catch bait. And you gradually walk back, bringing the net over onto the bed nice and even. Sometimes you would be in a bit of a hurry if it was a nice day, because the birds fly much better after heavy rain in the fens where they feed on the black fen land, get the feet dirty, and they like washing up in nice clear water. And on this end you would set the spring ready like that. Normally, as I said earlier, that would be on the water. Just shake the net a little bit so it's a bit slack on the bed. You wouldn't see if it's scattered about more, the birds don't even know it's a net where they're landing on. And this is the ticklish part. And when you get it set, you walk back as quickly as possible because it's a nice day and the birds are coming in. The quicker you get the net set, the more money you earn. You see about 20, 30 birds coming in. I better pull before I lose them. Of course, things have changed a lot since old Will Kent's time. I think if Will Kent had seen me tearing about the wash on a motorcycle, he would have dropped dead. When I first started with a scrambling machine, I used to jump some of the small dikes, leap them, but I think if old Will come back and saw me tearing across the washes, he would say, "You'll kill your damn self, boy, stop it." Another man named Ernie James was with my great uncle. Now Ernie and his father was eel catchers, like my grandfather and great uncles. A character.
Now then, Josh, you reckon you was punt gunning after me?
No, I don't think I was punt gunning after you, only you fired your gun after me.
Oh, lots of times.
Yeah, lots of times, but I think I was the last punt gunner on the wash professionally who worked on the wash since the war, if you know what I mean.
Ah, yes, I do know what you
Because,
mean, but I was a shooting professionally, punt gun professionally till 1970, and then I packed in for a few years, and then I come out and had another shot at you in 74. Yeah,
I've learned a lot from Ernie. We can both talk the same language.
I always put these in first to see if they're moving, and then if they're moving, I have to put the nets in.
He is the oldest one left in the village of the typical Welney Wash wildfowlers and punt gunners.
I'll ask Wanchard to come and help me. You know, I can't carry him now if we get a lot of eels.
Oh, I hope you get too many you can't carry him at all now. I know if you get some, I'll get some.
Although he's much older than me, I've learnt a lot from him, and he's always been helpful to me, especially when I've had something go wrong with my gun, or I've needed a eel hive, which he makes from the willows which he grows, which he took over from his father. Everything has got to be perfect with him.
Have you heard about any eels, what the price is at all this year?
Not many fenmen can do the jobs what Ernie James can do. Make all his own tools, make his own boat.
Sometimes when they don't go in the nets, because these is baited and your nets is not baited, are they?
Yeah. That chair looked to me as if that ain't quite square. I can square that up.
I think it's your eyesight.
I was born in the county of Cambridgeshire, about 200 or 300 yards outside the Norfolk border, just in the Isle of Ely. It was a very small cottage. There was 3 boys and 3 girls. There was not enough room downstairs for a bed. And when we moved, I had more brothers and sisters added to the family. Now that was 2 down and 2 up. There wasn't room to walk between the wall and the chairs. That house adjoined the house which was occupied by my uncle, my father's brother. The photograph was taken whilst I was a prisoner of war. In the prison camp, I was telling them I'd got 5 sisters and 7 brothers, and they said, "Oh no, I don't believe that." I wrote home to Mother. She immediately got together the whole family and had a family photograph taken, especially to send to me, postcard size, mind you. Father had a small holding, and after he gave that up, he had a small milk round. But the hard times before the war was always coped with by the management of my late mother. Mother would sit up until 11 or 12 o'clock at night to make children's night dresses out of her old night dresses. She would make a complete little suit for the boys out of an old suit of father's. Right up till the age of 18, I gave my parents all the money I earned. We had a fairly tough time, but there was lots more people, especially my wife Olive, lost her father, and Mother was left with 4 small children. We married Boxing Day 1946, but after that we had these serious floods, 1947, and being self-employed, at the end of the week I had no money at all to go and get the groceries. So the early part of our life, especially just after my daughter Carolyn was born, we had a bit of a headache, believe me. And she was always with me on the wash. She's married and she has 3 sons. The middle one, Andrew, he loves the cattle. Matter of fact, I learned him to drive the old Land Rover I had. The only trouble is his legs weren't quite long enough. Andrew has a little bit of interest in the birds. And at his age, I didn't really think it was really worth my while drilling it into him. I was lucky, you see, I had both my grandfathers and great uncles and father. But I just hadn't got no children old enough to do what I'd done.
see if they're still there, Clara. There's two little birds walking with long legs and long beaks. They're called snipe.
Have you got a favourite bird?
I've got a favourite pair. This one's called Josh and Olive. That's after me and my wife. Because when Josh was a little cygnet, when it arrived from Russia, I walked out and picked it up. Being picked as the first warden has given me a chance to meet some of the best. And when you meet these people and take them over and show them the birds, they are human beings. And that's the sad thing about it, that when I retire, I'm going to miss the people. Well, it's made my life, if you like. Climb in the boat, and if you can, you have to lay flat. And if you like to see how the gun is fired with a percussion cap on here, a flash in the pan, ignites the fine powder. In return, it ignites the coarse powder which is near, which is forces the shot out towards the ducks. Now, if you like to see how it fires, in the pan itself, what they call a flash in the pan, pull the trigger handle and see how it goes.
See that there, the one preening? And then looking further out...
The new man to take over will be Don Revitt.
Beyond the potchard is a female tufted, their main source.
He has plenty of experience with wildfowl.
Yes. Now, what have you got in the way of mallard?
630.
630.
Yeah.
Good. That gives us over 1,000 mallard.
Some ideas of Don's are not the same as mine, but, I mean, they may work, they may not. 2,250. Shoveler, 90.
Yes, they're holding up well. Gives about 200
But
in all.
After all said and done, I wish Don the best of luck, and I hope he makes a success of it.
So that's over 1,000 teal.
In the past 8 to 10 years, I can see a great change. Years ago, if we had message to say that the sluice doors was open, it would be 7 or 8 days before we got the bulk of the water down onto the washes. But now, with new drainage systems up in Buckinghamshire and Bedfordshire, we've got the water on Welney Wash within 48 hours. If the tides are not running low enough, we cannot get rid of that water. Now, if they're not grazed and flooded, that grass will disappear and the reeds will take over and it will ruin the whole washes as a conservation area. Well, the Black Fens is the last place in East Anglia which was drained, and the peat level is still there. A fenman is a man who earned his living from the rivers and the ditches. The farmer now, 1,000 acres, only needs 3 or 4 men, where years ago he needed 30 men. So therefore he doesn't need these old cottages where he had his workmen live. The local pubs have all been closed, so people having cars and going out. What happens today, you've got to do what other people do. Half the fenmen are gone. The 15 years I was working at the trust at Welney, a house was provided for me, now I am retiring, I have moved into a modern house in Littleport, which for the first month or so seemed rather unreal, but it'll come to me in time. I shall hop in my car, if I can afford it, and be down into the fens. Oh, what a fool not to learn to do that.
You're not too old now.
When I retire next year, that'll be just a job. Me sit here with you and make no noise.
Well, I can tell you what to do and fetch the beer, can't I? You should know I've been telling you this last 20, 30
No,
years.
I don't always take notes what you tell me.
Oh, well, you want to, you know. I took notes what those old blokes told me.
I've had lots of people say to me, what are you going to do when you retire? I've had more jobs offered me since they know that I'm going to retire than I've ever had in my life, I think. What I intend to do is visit old people which I've known all my life. Just hope that we get some eels. It became compulsory change in a sense, and I really want to keep the old fens going. The fenman's way of life. If someone said to me now, would you go back to warfowling? My immediate answer would be no. But if there was an opportunity where you could earn a living, I think I would have to think twice. Because stalking ducks, it was beating the wildness of wild birds. But I would never start warfowling for sport. It would have to be a very good living for me to go back to start. Otherwise, I would say no.